Hey, it's Dean, back down at Sear Performance. We've been plugging away, working on everything we got going on, and the main thing was Lynn's 33. The motor we got in, and just started plugging away on attaching everything back to the motor. I pulled the radiator out because it had that big crack along the top of the seam, and I resoldered it, cleaned it up, painted it, and the AC condenser was actually pop riveted. You can still see the edges of the pop rivets are sticking out. You can't get them out because they hit one of the tubes for the cooling in the radiator. So you can't really get the pop rivets out unless you sit there and cut away, but then they're not going to come out of the fins anyways. But yeah, they had two brackets here, so I took those off because you couldn't pull the radiator without pulling the AC condenser with it, and you couldn't really get to the lines to disconnect the lines, which you don't want to do because then you got to go through charging the whole system. So I flipped the brackets and I actually attached them inside of here where the grill bolts into the front valance panel or whatever that piece would be called, the radiator core. But we got the headers on it, got the fuel system all finished up, mounted the regulator up here on the firewall. So we got the dash 6 coming in, the dash 6 going out. Set it to about 5.5 psi for the fuel pressure. And then just changed up a couple of things to kind of tidy it up a little bit. He had a couple of adjusters that kind of crossed for the AC and the alternator. So I looked at just kind of swapping the belts, and it'll pull them together a little bit better, and then make them one adjuster out of stainless with left hand and a right hand thread. So you just turn it the one way and it adjusts it. So we got all that done. Wiring, got that pretty much all squared away. I did the heat sleeve over all the battery cables and a couple of grounds that I ran down to the block back there. And then I ran a new negative battery cable. This is actually like a factory GM battery cable. So it already had the nice heat sleeve on it. And I attached it down up under there somewhere. You can't really see it. So the negatives now, it goes directly to the block instead of going to the bottom of the bell housing. What else? Bunch of stuff. Radiator hoses are all hooked up. All the suspension is completely together, tightened, sort of, kind of, toe in, toe out adjusted, but none of the camber or caster has been adjusted. I don't have an alignment machine to do all that, so I just try and get it as close as I can. Couple things left to finish up on the wiring on this side. I got to remake the alternator, get rid of the extra wires that are just stragglers in there, and then I put the header on, and it actually bumped the original knuckle. The original tube kind of came straight, and it bumped the knuckle. I can kind of get that piece. It's over here. Shop is a mess right now. Trying to crank out as much as we can, as quick as we can. And it is 4th of July weekend, which is always cool. So that's the tube that was in there, and you can see on this one here, it's pretty deep. Kind of hard to see, but it's pretty deep on that one there. Well, you can kind of see it. So, being that was happening and trying to get it to the new rack, I would have had to have, if I left this tube in there, it was something, yeah, it was like this. This tube sat like this in there. If I had left this tube in there, there was literally no way for me to make this knuckle come straighter away from it and then get another joint to turn it away. So I would have had to have put it up on top, which what I remember is his fenders sit pretty much all on top of the frame, kind of the inner fender side of it. So I decided to just cut the tube out and take a couple of pre-bent pieces that I have and just kind of cut them up and put them in there, and it came out pretty good and gave it a ton of room. I mean, there's almost a finger width of room now between the header and that knuckle. And then I did another, it's this 3/4 double D bar, so I did another U-joint there, and then came over to the rack and pinion U-joint, and in between I kind of hid the I call it a Heim joint, but you know, the stabilizer for the steering, I kind of hid it under the motor mount, so when you're kind of looking from here, you can't really tell that there's anything holding it in. I don't know, I think it looks a little bit better, but it definitely helped get rid of banging into this tube here. So all that's done, and then we did get the exhaust cutouts on. That's the word I was looking for. So these are they're off of Amazon. I don't remember if they're like CX Racing or one of those brands, but whatever. So I did take the header because it had like the standard header, like the 3-bolt flange, and I cut it back. It's only cut to about right here, but I cut that 3-bolt flange off, and then I got a 3 to 2.5 stainless reducer, which I really didn't want to do, but his exhaust is 2.5 inch, so we got the 2.5 inch cutouts, and this reducer goes down to 2.5. It has the V-band on it here, because the 3-bolt ones, they just always seem to leak. And then we did like the band clamp style exhaust clamp to tie the exhaust back in. Both sides are done, and they actually worked out pretty good. They're nice and level. There's plenty of room where they're sitting. We are going to take and kind of turn this out like on a 45 and then another 45 and run it down the running board and then turn it out in front of the tire. So it sounds really, really good. Let me jump in. And so this will be a cold start, which, you know, it doesn't have choke on it or nothing. I still have to put the box up and wrap up all the spare wiring on it. But this is a morning start. It actually starts right up. I did forget, when I put it all together, I did forget to put the oil pressure sender, and of course it goes down in there. So, but sounds really, really good. Fuel pressure is just under 5.5, so that's good there. Man, it sounds so good. And then these cutouts are actually, they're on a remote control. So A is closed, and then B, makes it sound quite a bit different. Then you go back to closed, and it's not obnoxiously loud when they're closed. It's got like the super turbo, the old school super turbo mufflers on it. So it sounds, sounds good, sounds healthy. It idles just under 1,000 RPM, and it's got a really nice chop to it. So that's good. I mean, we can even, he did say to adjust it down a little bit when I talked to the engine builder. He said you probably want to be somewhere in the 850 range. So we can do that. Well, yeah, that's going to be a fun one to do. There it goes. Man, that one's hard to do. I gotta get a short screwdriver, but I get a short screwdriver and loosen that up a little bit. Or I don't have a short screwdriver yet. Come on now. Kind of a pain in the butt with both carburetors. Yeah, you got to constantly adjust both of them. There it goes. Now that's down. That's probably down 35, probably 800 or 900, somewhere right in that ballpark area. So that's probably right where it needs to be. Let's get that one to touch the linkage. But I got to give Rob up at Central Florida Machine, him and his guys, I mean, they kind of knocked it out of the park with the motor. And he put a more aggressive cam than it had in there. The old cam was actually completely wiped out. Not completely wiped out, but being that it wasn't that old, you can see the lobes. This one here's got a bunch of scarring on it. This one here is starting to scar, and this one here has got chunks all over it. But what he had said was it's kind of a strange deal, is the cam's got all the scarring but the lifters don't. So he thinks the other machine shop reused that cam. So this actually has a billet core camshaft in it, so it sounds, it's more aggressive cam, and he said it'd be perfect. And so far, there it goes. So far he's right. I'm loving it. Reach in there and shut it off, but only up to like 140 right now. So that's good. I gotta get the alternator hooked up so it charges the battery. But it is definitely coming along. I got the electric fan. I got to put that back in, which again they had riveted in to the tabs. And I'm not a fan of doing it that way, so I'm going to try and find another way to do it. Maybe come off of the radiator support, top and bottom, and do a couple tabs over to where that can like thread into them, or something along that line. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much that's the 33. I mean, it's coming along. I still got a lot of work to do on the door, tidy up the wiring, get all that stuff sorted out. But we're down here today. Hopefully gonna get it. I mean, it's kind of ready to go for a little road test. Other than the door, it wouldn't stay shut because it's not together. But we're gonna try and get it as far as long as we can today, and hopefully Monday or Tuesday be able to bring it up to an alignment shop, have them align it properly. I gotta bleed out the brakes too, so maybe that's something I'll do today. But that's it for now. Keep you updated, keep you posted. We'll have the first drive up in a couple of days. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave